Hello from Canada. In Canadian news this week, the Supreme Court of Canada has scrapped mandatory minimum sentences for child pornography offenses, despite the minimum sentence having only been 1 year. Reading from Redux's article, the decision upholds a 2023 judgment from the Quebec Court of Appeals that found the law unconstitutional under Section 12 of the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. The appeal stemmed from two separate criminal prosecutions in Quebec, both of which involved men who had hoarded massive amounts of child sexual exploitation files. The justices explained, while the offenses are serious, the mandatory minimum prevents judges from imposing proportionate punishment tailored to each offender. While acknowledging that child pornography offenses are among the most serious in the criminal code, the justices concluded that Parliament's fixed 1 year minimum risked being, quote, grossly disproportionate in rare or hypothetical cases. The court insisted that sentencing must remain flexible enough to consider the circumstances of the offender, even in crimes of clear moral gravity. This is yet another example of Canadian courts showing no interest in protecting the most vulnerable people in our society from sick, predatory men. In other news, Finance Minister François-Philippe Champagne and Women and Gender Equality Minister Rachid Valdez announced on Wednesday, October 29th, that the federal government has promised $660 million in new funding for gender equality and to LGBTQIA plus communities over the next 5 years. The breakdown of the funding is as follows. $382.5 million over 5 years to support women's equality, leadership, and economic opportunity programs. $223.4 million over 5 years toward what they insist on calling gender-based violence support programs, and $54.6 million over 5 years for two LGBTQIA plus initiatives, including $1.4 million a year for additional security at Pride events, despite there being zero examples of attacks at Pride events in recent Canadian memory. Women's advocacy groups who fail to adhere to gender ideology, such as WDI Canada, CEDAW, Women's Rights Matter, and others, are ineligible for funding, of course, even though we have an actual need for security at events. CEDAW has a need for funding for their charter challenge, and we all have a general need of funding to spread our message. WDI Canada will be reaching out to Ms. Valdez and Mr. Champagne to request funding, but we will be managing our expectations, to say the least. That's all I have for you today. Have a great day.